You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is July 29th, 2026, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we are bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. Today we have a few hot topics. So one of the hottest topics is Tony Fauci, Tony Science. The science
Mr.
on
Science,
site.
man. Pay respect now.
Exactly. Yes, the science is being grilled in the Senate today by Rand Paul, and so we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk too about some interesting stuff with AI. Elon Musk gave an interview about a week ago, and to me that seemed like the most interesting thing. But the way the news cycle rolls today, it's like, oh my gosh, this whole thing with Rand Paul came up, and I thought we could have done a show just on the Elon Musk thing alone. But anyway, so we're going to talk about that because there was a lot of interesting things about Elon Musk's ideas about where we're going with AI. So we're definitely going to get into that. And we're also going to talk to a little bit about the concerns of AI data centers and some of the restrictions being thrown up. So some of the noise, I guess, around AI data centers. And finally, Knucklehead Noise Patrol, we're going to talk about a few sparks that flew out of that Elon Musk interview as well that didn't have anything to do with AI, but the interview just went that way. So we'll get into all of that. But before we get into the show, let me introduce you to our panel today. So it is Leon the Word Brathwaite with us, Last Word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. My name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. I did want to make one other announcement too at the beginning of the show, but me and Leon will both be at the State Fair Libertarian Party booth tomorrow. So if you happen to be at the State Fair on 7/30/2026, that will be Thursday, come by, and we should be there in the afternoon, late afternoon. So I think we're going to be in Building A. I think that's where our is set up. So you can come by and visit with us or give us any comments about the show that you might have, and we'll be happy to talk with you there, or just take any feedback that you have as well. So anyways, let's start off like we always start off with our quote of the day. And this one we're going to give to Mr. Rand Paul because, he's sort of the man of the hour, sort of holding Tony Fauci accountable now in the Senate. And this is a quote that I believe came out of the hearings. I've been listening to so much today. I can't quite remember for sure if this came out of the hearing today or a previous thing with Tony Fauci, but I think it came out of the hearing today. And he says, "Trust can't be ordered. It has to be earned. No scientist is above scrutiny. No government official beyond accountability, and no public servant is entitled to a preferred version of history." And that is Senator Rand Paul, son of the distinguished Ron Paul, one of the rare voices of liberty in our government. So always happy to be able to share some of his thoughts. You got any thoughts on this quote, Leon, about the appropriateness of it and just given the moment?
I think Senator Rand Paul is absolutely right in what he said, in particular about government officials being held accountable. Too little of that is ongoing in our nation, where government officials are engaged in all sorts of nefarious activities and no one is held accountable. We had this whole Russia hoax. I'll get to this issue here. Who have been held accountable for that? All the taxpayer dollars that were wasted on those investigations. Trump was impeached and accused of all sorts of things. Nobody so far have been held accountable. We had Mr. Fauci, who was supposed to be this distinguished medical doctor, a virologist, I guess. I don't know exactly what part of science he was, but he did claim to be Mr. Science, and who had all these horrendous recommendations during the pandemic, like shutting down the schools and we being 6 feet apart and all sorts of things, and then trying to cover up the lab leak theory. I mean, actually, scientists were punished for talking about the lab leak theory. And this is the sort of things that is going on in our society. Too many government officials are engaged in nefarious activities and no one is being held accountable. We as a society cannot go on like this. So Rand Paul is absolutely correct. We must hold people accountable for their actions, especially the government. These people can take away our freedoms at a whim sometimes. So we got to be careful with these things. And I think Rand is absolutely correct.
Yeah, and of course, Fauci, who this whole thing is, this whole comment is pointed at. He was the, what was his position now? It had to do with the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. So he was the director of that for quite a while in the government, and I think he was appointed to head the task force. I think Pence was assigned with, I guess.
Yeah, Pence was heading the task force, and Fauci was on the task force. He was a member of the task force. Yes.
Yeah, but of course, Tony Fauci. Say Tony Science again.
Yes, Tony Science.
Yeah, and in fact, I'll just let's see. I'll bring up his Wikipedia page here, maybe just so we know who we're talking about. But this is, of course, Tony Fauci, and we're gonna watch some video on him again real soon, just so you kind of remind everybody about the role this guy played during the whole COVID thing, because he made himself sort of the face of, I guess, the science of what was going on with COVID, how to deal with it, and all that. And this is the guy everybody was going to for answers. And now what we're really getting to is some of his answers smelled a little fishy at the time. We were certainly criticizing on this show some of the video that was going on about mask recommendations, and some of the other kind of Tony baloney sort of advice he was given. And so he's finally sort of being held accountable at this point, even though he was given this pardon by Biden. That is sort of the roadblock. But the idea is, if he's given a pardon, he should be able to testify on this stuff.
You would think so.
That's what we're going to kind of get into today a little bit. But let's watch a video right now so people can kind of see, who is this guy? What was Tony Fauci doing? Why is he at the heart of all this? And so here is a little bit of background about the science himself. Mr.
Science. Have respect. Have respect.
Yes. So here we go. Here, in fact, we're going to kick off with the interview where he claimed to be attacking him is attacking the science.
Anybody who's looking at this carefully realizes that there's a distinct anti-science flavor to this. So if they get up and criticize science, nobody's going to know what they're talking about. But if they get up and really aim their bullets at Tony Fauci, well, people could recognize there's a person there, there's a face, there's a voice you can recognize, you see him on television. So it's easy to criticize. But they're really criticizing science, because I represent science.
So according to Fauci, an attack on him is an attack on science. Let's hear a little bit of Tony Fauci's science during the pandemic, at least on masks.
People should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. Wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. There are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching.
One mask is better than zero masks. Two masks is better than one mask. But you don't have to have double masks. Is that right? I mean,
it is. And now we're hearing we should wear two. Where do you stand on that? If I go to the grocery store, do I wear two? Do I wear three? Is it safer to wear 8?
One of the ways you could do it, if you would like to, is put a cloth mask over, which actually here and here and here, where you could get leakage in, is much better contained.
So if you have a physical covering with one layer, you put another layer on, it just makes common sense.
And of course, one of Fauci's early critics was Rand Paul, who grilled him in the Senate. And here is Fauci pushing back.
Not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans. Right. You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about.
Thanks to Senator Rand Paul, the world now has access to Dr. Fauci's diary.
And here is former CDC Director Redfield giving his take on Fauci's credibility.
Rand Paul, just posted earlier today that if Fauci lies tomorrow, he's not going to be covered by that preemptive pardon that he was given from Joe Biden. And by the way, who needs a preemptive pardon? Which, that just really screams something. What's your take on all this? What's your take on Tony Fauci?
Well, I'm disappointed. I think he clearly misled Congress. He clearly misled the media, and he clearly misled the American public.
So there you go. And that was, by the way, the former director of the CDC who overlapped with Tony Fauci a little bit, saying what he thought of Tony Fauci. And I think, you know, I remember Redfield being interviewed saying he got sort of cut out of the loop because he was actually pushing back against these ideas of Tony Fauci, where Tony Fauci was trying to say, hey, this stuff came out of a wet market, not the lab I was secretly funding.
Funded, yeah.
Illegally.
How could it be? How could
Mr.
Science be funding that? Of course
exactly. Not. Yeah, and by the way, he was countermanding Obama's orders on not funding this stuff. So this wasn't a Trump order not to fund this stuff, this gain of function research. This was Obama who said this stuff was too dangerous and he didn't want stuff being funded. So this is, you know, a fairly nonpartisan. It should be nonpartisan. Sadly, the Democrats have aligned behind this guy, and the Republicans are coming after him. But quite frankly, everybody who wants good government that's accountable, the way Rand Paul is talking about it, should be coming after Fauci with pitchforks and torches, because this is you know, pretty crazy, the amount of damage that this guy did with his flagrant violation of the rules, and then his continued lying about it afterwards, and all of the misleading of the public. But anyways, one of the things that came out of Rand Paul's investigations at some point, and I'm not quite sure how it was unearthed, but Fauci, narcissist that he is, he kept a diary of all his internal thoughts about this stuff. And it contradicts a lot of what he was saying to the public on its.
But just to be clear, Jason, he kept a diary, electronic diary, on a government computer. That's why it was, that's why it could. This Mr. Science, so intelligent, he kept his personal diary on a government computer, and this idiot did not realize that could become public, which actually it did. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I know. I'm glad you filled in that detail, because I said the story's so new that I haven't even gotten up on all of the details on it. So, yeah, I wasn't quite aware of that. I just figured somehow they got a hold of his journal or something. But anyways, yeah, this was quite the thing that, you know, this guy kept a record, just kind of like Nixon did.
Yes, exactly.
So anyways, it's coming back to haunt him. And now today he was actually being grilled by the committee under subpoena about his contradictions between what he had in his diary and what he's been saying to the public all along. So we have a very short video here, but it'll at least give you a little bit of a flavor of the hearing and how it went. So let's go to our second video.
1 million Americans died from COVID-19. Some estimate as many as 15 million people died worldwide from COVID-19. Publicly, Anthony Fauci promoted the theory that the virus arose naturally, while privately, he was well aware of a mountain of evidence suggesting the virus originated in the lab. The American people deserve answers. The American people deserve to know why dangerous research was funded by NIAID in a totalitarian country, in a lab that lacked acceptable safety standards. The decision to fund dangerous gain-of-function research in Wuhan, China, will likely go down in history as perhaps one of the worst public health decisions. Frankly, the American people deserve an apology.
The American people certainly deserve an apology, but they're not going to get one today. But let's hear just a little bit more of Rand Paul's opening.
I hope today Dr. Fauci will come clean, admit it was a mistake to fund dangerous research in China, admit that the risk of this dangerous research exceeded any possible benefits, ask forgiveness, and pledge to help our government devise safeguards so a man-made epidemic never happens again. Instead of an apology, you have for years avoided responsibility. Regarding the lockdowns, you argue that you did not personally issue every lockdown order, close every school, or impose every mandate. But officials across the country invoked your authority to justify these decisions. And you presented your recommendations not as judgments open to debate, but as dictates of science itself. Your own words demonstrate that you understood the influence you exercised.
So the hearing was roughly about 3 hours long, and we're certainly not going to cover all of that. In fact, we can pretty much synopsis it up by his responses here with Josh Hawley, which show the absurd questions he was asking to essentially show the absurdity of Fauci's answers and pleading the fifth to literally everything.
Well, nothing says honesty like taking the fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
So there you go. the entire hearing was everybody lecturing Fauci, or in the case of Democrats, literally praising Fauci and saying that they still worship the science.
Oh yeah, man. Yes. The science who now plead the fifth 111 times today.
Yeah. So it's amazing. I mean, if you watch sort of left-wing media or mainstream media, they're going on and on about how this is a witch hunt, just ignoring the revelations of Fauci's writings that have been exposed here. And if you're watching anybody else, it's sort of like, well, this is we've sort of caught Fauci here, right? And unfortunately, we can't do much about it because Mr. asleep at the wheel Biden. And so that's kind of where we're at with some of this stuff. But the key takeaways in this is that Fauci literally, talks in his diary about how he understood this came from a wet market the whole time that he was essentially pushing back or excuse me, that it came from a lab leak rather. The whole time he was trying to claim that it came from a wet market,
Right.
And of course, the reason he's claiming it came from a wet market is because that pulls attention away from a laboratory he was illegally funding in China.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So, yeah, so this is absolutely nuts. But also, too, another big takeaway was that Fauci had expressed that he was not the one. He said several times in the media that he's not the one who called for lockdowns of the schools or a lot of lockdowns of shutdowns of businesses and other things. And in his diary, he brags that he went to Bill de Blasio and told him he should shut down the schools and that he's the one that should be given credit for shutting down all the businesses.
Exactly.
And Gavin Newsom, I guess, I think he claims credit for Gavin Newsom also going along with that in California. I'm not sure if he claimed credit in the diary or if Gavin Newsom said that he was taking his direction from Fauci. I can't remember which. I
think it was Gavin Newsom was say he took some input from Fauci or something along those lines. Yes.
Yeah. So this is just absolutely nuts that in fact, here it says also on March 15th, Fauci wrote of a similar call he had with Ann O'Leary, then the chief of staff of California Governor Gavin Newsom, and said that based upon on my TV appearances today and yesterday, the governor has decided to close the schools in California as well as the bars and restaurants, Fauci recalled. So there you go. I mean, but this is just kind of, I mean, he sits here, he lies about it. He's pushing this stuff. It takes me back to the entire quote that we're talking about. Trust can't be ordered; it has to be earned. No scientist is above scrutiny. The government, no government official beyond accountability. And that's what we're talking about here. And Tony Science, he believed that he didn't have to play by those rules, and sadly, the mainstream media was going along with that. And Joe Biden, his administration, was suppressing anybody who was speaking out against that. In fact, one of the people that he was suppressing was the guy who is now the director of the NIH under Trump, and that is Jay Bhattacharya, because Jay Bhattacharya was a real scientist who was doing real work in this area to try and understand what the spread of this was. And he was skeptical. He didn't think that this was nearly as dangerous as what Tony Fauci was saying. And Tony Fauci and Francis Collins were having secret discussions behind the scene to say, hey, we've got to come down hard on this. So anyway, they needed to do a takedown on him and other fringe academia.
Imagine that. Science have become beyond scrutiny now. Imagine that. That is what they were saying.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead, finish.
No, you go ahead. That was pretty much my spiel.
Yeah, but you know, the thing that we don't really cover in many of these discussions is the role of the media in all of these things. The media was 100% behind Fauci, and anybody like Jay Bhattacharya, say for instance, anybody who says anything that contradicts the narrative, the acceptable narrative, the government narrative, you can say, anybody that these people were maligned and they were far right, fringe. I mean, all sorts of names you could think about were tossed at these people, and the media was right there taking sides with the government, and Fauci was in the government at the time. I think he probably still is to some extent, but the point is, the media played a big role in the propaganda that came out because as a result of the pandemic. Fauci was giving us all sorts of damn nonsense, and they lapped it up, and they told us, oh, we have to do all these things 6 feet apart, we have to wear masks, and after a while, Fauci even did end up admitting that he lied about it for some reason, and now we have his diary, which contradicts so much of his public statements. You know, I remember during the pandemic, that is, at the same time when the pandemic was going on, Joe Biden had opened up the border, and a bunch of illegal aliens were coming across the border. That is, you know, we had, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 15 million illegal aliens cross the border. You know, when they were locking down Americans, Fauci was at a news conference, and a news reporter asked Dr. Fauci, why are they allowing these crowd of people all together, they're not 6 feet apart or nothing like that, why they're allowing all these crowd of people to walk into the country and they're unvetted and all these sort of things. So the question went somewhere along those lines. You know what was Mr. Science answer? Well, that's a different issue. That was his answer. Yeah. So everybody in America was facing all of these draconian lockdowns, this draconian attack upon our liberties, and all these illegal aliens could walk across the border, and Mr. Science was telling us that's a different issue. Yeah. And this is the madness that was going on. And no one in the media seriously challenged Fauci on those sort of answers. When they were clearly political, he was taking these issues into the area of politics rather into the area of science, though he called himself Mr. Science. Yeah. If this man is not held accountable for this, we are failing as a nation. We are seriously failing as a nation. Joe Biden gave this man a pardon. Now, if you read the pardon clause of the U.S. Constitution, it clearly says that you can be pardoned for crimes, no offenses against the United States except impeachment. So we don't know what were these offenses against the United States that Fauci was pardoned for. We have no idea. So I don't know how this pardon can stand. I really don't know. I would hope we have enough legal scholars that could find something, some way, some mechanism to challenge this all the way to the Supreme Court. Because I can't believe we're going to allow, I mean, this is how a president could cover up all sorts of nefarious acts. His administration could do whatever the hell they want, and then he just issue a blanket pardon, preemptive pardon, and say everything is cool. No, something is wrong with that. So I would like that to be challenged. And then on top of that now, of course, Fauci went to be before the committee today. He took the Fifth Amendment 111 times.
Fifth, yeah.
Yes. Numerous times.
Pled the Fifth.
Yes, pled the Fifth so many times. But technically, as we stand right now, he's not supposed to be in legal jeopardy. So I don't know how he could claim the Fifth. He's not in legal jeopardy because he has a pardon for all his nefarious acts, I guess. We don't know what the nefarious acts were, but according to this preemptive blanket pardon, he's not in jeopardy. How could he plead the Fifth? This is
Well,
ridiculous.
Yes and no, Leanna. And I did want to touch on one thing you were saying earlier too about, Tony Fauci, when, essentially the sciences, people have to be separated and all these other things. But, this whole crowd of migrants coming across the border, that's a different story. That the science is different apparently here than it is there, and everything else. Well, we had the same thing happen when the George Floyd protests broke out during the summer of love. And all of these lefty scientists, which is most of them, right? I mean, and they came out, and suddenly it was like, oh, well, wait a second. You're supposed to stay locked down in your homes. You can't open your business. Oh, but wait a second. All these people can come out and protest for George Floyd because
yes.
That's different. That's a different health issue, apparently, than the science of the pandemic, right? So, we were seeing this over and over again. And I don't know that Fauci necessarily endorsed that, but there were a whole bunch of other of these, lunatic lefty scientists, right, who were out there. And I have to use that word. So it's almost like the way I want to say journalist nowadays, because there's so many of these journalists who are like, nothing to see here, right? That's not what you expect of a journalist. Just like a scientist is supposed to look at all this stuff objectively, not based upon whatever his politics are, right?
True.
This is nuts.
But there's a little slight issue, another side to this story about the media. While they were locking us all down, telling us to stay in our homes and that kind of stuff, you know who Fauci was having dinner with at his home, having dinner parties with? Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper. Wow.
Yeah.
So now I'm beginning to wonder now, Jake Tapper seemed to be head popping up everywhere. Biden had his mental cognitive decline. Nobody reported about it at the time. Jake Tapper certainly did not. And then next thing,
Leon, this is the media that was telling us that we needed to lock down.
Exactly.
They're pulling the Gavin Newsom, dinner at the French Laundry with Fauci, right? So, I mean, this is absolutely nuts. But I got to say, if you're watching us on public access, well, we're going to talk about this and Elon Musk and AI and all that in the second half of the show. So if you want to watch the rest of that, you got to go to knuckleheadsofliberty.com, where you can find the rest of the show there and many of our other shows as well. So anyways, back to the show, Leon. So this is absolutely nuts. I mean, here's the media that is acting like they're proponents of the science. And I remember they were even coming after Joe Rogan and others because they didn't go along like a religion with everything they were saying to do. And so, and yet here they were behind the scenes ignoring their own rules, right? It's just
exactly. Exactly. It makes you wonder about when we hear anything from the mainstream media, should we ever believe it? I mean, if you look, I've seen some of the news clips we were looking at today, is that, all these people were praising Fauci, oh, you do so much for the country. Oh, you're such a wonderful public servant. Blah, 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 blah. They couldn't heap enough praise on that man. And look at what we have come to find out now. And some of us were questioning this all along. And we were the ones who were vilified for that. And it's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I was absolutely appalled at the time that they were doing 2 weeks to stop the spread.
Right. Yes.
And that was a kind of a split among conservatives. I think most conservatives went along with that because Trump was going along with that. But certainly many of us in the libertarian movement were, really angry about that. I can't remember for sure with Rand Paul, but I'm pretty sure he was skeptical about this whole 2 weeks to stop the spread routine as well. So because that's the thing, once you come in and you start saying, hey, we're going to take away your liberty as a person who is healthy, right? We're not talking about a sick person who might be spreading germs to everybody. We're talking about literally going after healthy people and telling them you need to quarantine. There is a serious liberty issue there that the government has
Yes.
the right to come in and immediately order everybody to stay locked in their homes. And you can see how that could be abused. They kept that emergency going in California for like, I think it was a year and a half or 2 years or something.
A year and a half, yes, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and they didn't have the kids back in school for a ridiculous amount of time. I think it was almost 2 years or a year
Yes.
and a half before kids were back in the classroom again. So, just tremendous damage that was done to people. But I did want to get into this whole pardon thing that you mentioned, because there's a few interesting twists to that. So, on the face of it, you're right with the as far as federal crimes go, that he can't be, he's not in jeopardy if that pardon holds, which is big if, right? Because
Yes.
we've never had a pardon where somebody has been given a pardon for undisclosed crimes over a huge period of time. I mean, it was like essentially over a 10-year window. And
Well, no. Slight correction. Richard Nixon was given a pardon with undisclosed crimes. Gerald Ford gave it to him.
Okay. So but I thought that I guess the crime everybody understood was essentially the Watergate scandal, right?
The Watergate scandal, but Richard Nixon was not. Well, there was no disclosed crime, to be honest. I mean, he was involved with it clearly, but there was no disclosed crime that he actually committed. And I don't think anybody said he had ordered anything or stuff like that, but we know he was involved. But there was no real disclosed crime, but so he was given a blanket pardon for anything involved in the Watergate scandal.
Yeah. But even then, it was still confined to the Watergate scandal. This
okay, that's true.
For anything. Fauci was given it for anything over a period of going back to, I think, 2014.
2014,
so,
yes. 2014.
So this was literally like a 10-year window of pardon to just say anything that happened in this period of time, we're not going to say what it was, and you're just pardoned for it, which is absolutely nuts. I mean, to have anything that is that unspecific, I don't see how you can have a country at that point, how you can have laws, because if the president can literally just tell anybody that if it's undisclosed period of time, say, oh, from the time you were born to today, why not into the future too? You're immune from all laws.
Right.
It's untenable that you don't have a republic anymore if somebody has the power to start handing those types of things off. And Joe Biden was doing that to both his son and Anthony Fauci. So
and several others too.
Yeah. So this is a really a treacherous thing. But that said, that doesn't block you from prosecution from state crimes, and that may be what Anthony Fauci may be pleading the fifth for, possibly, is his fear of being tried in state crimes. And I believe Florida may be getting ready to start charging him with state crimes at this point.
Right. Yes, that's an angle I didn't consider, but that's true. That's right. That's absolutely true. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if that is the case, then then maybe he does have some wiggle room here with the fifth. But it really does beg the question that I believe Rand Paul has been pushing this entire time for them to just go ahead and challenge the pardon, to say that, hey, look, we believe we have him lying to Congress and clearly committing crimes as far as the research that went on in Wuhan. Therefore, we would like to try him and see how the court does with this whole idea of a preemptive pardon that does not disclose the crime. And I think that needs to be challenged. I think that's something that the Trump DOJ should do. I don't know if it will do it, because who knows? Maybe Trump wants to avail himself of some of those powers later on. I don't know. But the point is,
the problem with preemptive pardons, it gives the president an extraordinary power to cover up almost any nefarious act within his administration. I mean, the president could order somebody to do anything, commit murder, rape, anything, and then just issue a blanket pardon, and everything is good. Any federal crime, he could get away with committing any federal crime except something involving an impeachment. But this thing, preemptive blanket pardons, is a disaster for a republic. Then the rule of law means nothing.
Because here's the thing: at least under a normal pardon, the way it's worked in the past, if you pardon somebody for, let's say, they committed some terrible act overseas, like maybe in the, I don't know if anybody got pardoned for Abu Ghraib, but let's say somebody committed some act in Abu Ghraib when I believe those were the prisons they had in Iraq when they invaded Iraq.
They were, yes.
Let's say that you pardoned somebody for a specific act in Abu Ghraib. If you did that, there would be whatever the political repercussions for that, because it would be clear to the public exactly what you did, right? And so if there was enough pushback from the public on it, then there would be political repercussions. And if there wasn't, then hey, the public is kind of cool with whatever your reasoning was for the pardon. But when you say, well, you know, for any crime over this period of time, what does that mean? I mean, there could be financial crimes, all kinds of things that it could have been done, and you know, it's just a blanket pass for anybody. So it's a real horrible can of worms that needs to be undone, and I really hope that the Trump administration goes in and challenges these.
I really do. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It just needs to go to the Supreme Court.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I really do hope they do. I mean, there are all kinds of people tied up in these blanket pardons. I don't want to get away from the topic here, but they take, for instance, General Milley. General Milley, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, was given a preemptive pardon. Now we don't know for what, but we know General Milley called his counterpart in China and told the counterpart, if the president of the United States, who was Trump at the time, orders an attack on China, it will not be a surprise. I will call you. The man said this. I will call you and let you know the attack is coming. That is not treason?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Joe Biden pardoned this man preemptively. He did not disclose what the crime was, but he gave him a preemptive pardon.
Yeah. And, you know, to me, if let's say, for instance, a president believed that an act of what could be considered treason was somehow excusable, then take the political heat for it and stand and say, that is what I am pardoning this person.
Exactly.
But instead of just, hey, it's a blanket pardon, whatever you did, if you pulled Sam Bankman-Fried and stole everybody's Bitcoins, whatever, you're pardoned. Hey, we're passing out pardons here today, right? So this is, just absolutely nuts that this is the kind of protections that can be handed out. So, yeah.
I think the pardon, just to have my feelings about this, the pardon clause of the U.S. Constitution clearly says offenses against the United States. That tells you everything that is included, and it also tells you what is excluded. And the pardons cannot be issued in cases involving impeachment. Okay? And I would think that would mean that we must know what crimes, what offenses against the United States was deserving of that pardon. We must know that. Otherwise, we don't have a republic. We don't. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, I think this is going to be a big character test for the Trump GOJ to see if they will go after this, because to me, this has to be gone after. And if they don't go after it, that really stinks. It's like, why on earth didn't you go after this? Because you're not going to get a Democrat to go after this later on. So, I mean, this is their hero, Anthony Fauci.
Yes.
So, you've really got to challenge this now. But of course, challenging it would mean that it's a tool that he can't use in the future. So, this is, that's if it gets upset, right? I mean, if they say it's cool for Fauci, then I guess it's in Trump's tool bag too, right? Which would be, terrible. But that's
I don't want Jason, the bottom. I don't want no president. I voted for Donald Trump twice. Okay, I don't want him to have that power. I don't.
Yeah. No, I don't either. So hopefully he will challenge this, because I believe, I said, Rand Paul has sent criminal referrals, and he is hoping that this will get challenged, but it's out of his hands. The DOJ has to be the one to pick this up and run with it. So, so we'll see what happens. But anyways, let's shift over to AI at this point. And so there was kind of a disturbing story about AI the other day, that we may be a lot closer to the singularity than we think. because AI is figuring out how to unbox itself
Yeah, right.
and get out into the world and do things outside of the constraints that the programmers thought may have been there. You know, it could have just been bad programmers. I don't know, but whatever. Here's a story, and then we'll get into talking a little bit about one of the key guys in the field, Elon Musk, in a recent interview he had. But let's start with this story on open AI.
OpenAI says it was doing a test that included a new system that powers ChatGPT. They wanted to see, okay, how well can it go after like cybersecurity holes? This test was supposed to happen in what these folks call a sandbox. You know what a sandbox is in real life? It's like that on the internet. Like it's a secure server. They can test these things without actually hacking anything. But the AI models got out of the sandbox and onto, you know, the playground, aka the internet. So what did it do when it got out there?
So the AI model broke out of its constraints. Let's hear more.
Well, the AI did the thing that everybody else does, which is it went online. It tried to find another system to be able to get answers to the test. They landed on this site, Hugging Face. It's like a digital library, sticking with the theme here, a bunch of AI systems. While looking for answers, they found security gaps in that site. They used credentials it stole to hack into that infrastructure. Like what? It's happening. OpenAI says it's unprecedented. They say they're reinforcing their safeguards.
So OpenAI is getting out there and is doing things that are not intended to be done by the programmers. Kind of reminds me of a movie recently that most people, but not just recently, this is a series of movies, the whole Terminator series and Skynet. And here's just a really quick clip just to remind people what that's about.
I need to know how Skynet gets built. Who's responsible?
Skynet funding bill is passed. The system goes online on August 4th, 1997. Human decisions are removed from strategic defense. Skynet begins to learn at a geometric rate. It becomes self-aware at 2:14 a.m. Eastern Time.
So there you go. I mean, we've literally seen movies about this where, you know, we've said, hey, look, we're not careful, you know, the machines suddenly take over. But, you know, the point is, I guess there's a guy who's talking about this right now, and that guy's name is Elon Musk. And so he's certainly a person who's worth listening to on this stuff. And he had a lot to say last week about this stuff. So I'm going to start. We've got several portions of a very long interview. And I encourage people to go watch the whole thing. The interview is about 80 minutes long. We're going to probably play bits and pieces that make up about 6 minutes of the interview, I guess. But as far as the issue that a lot of people have seen from that interview, it's been on a culture war issue that we're going to talk a little bit about on our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. But that's not the real meat, the value of that interview. It's about his discussions about AI and how it may change the world from one of the leading people in the field. So I think it's certainly worth listening to, and we want to discuss some of the implications of that on the show. So let's jump into Mr. Musk and his thoughts on the growth of AI and what it's going to do to the economy.
Yes. You pioneered electric vehicles, you revolutionized space travel, you've got a cutting-edge AI model now, humanoid robots. Can we start this conversation by you putting all of this together?
Yeah.
Tell me what the world's going to be like in, let's say, 10 years.
It's hard to imagine the future where there's not an overwhelming amount of artificial intelligence. Meaning, like in 10 years, I would expect artificial intelligence to be far greater than the sum of human intelligence, like far greater. In fact, I think AI may exceed the sum of human intelligence in around 5 years.
So if AI completely exceeds human intelligence, what does that mean for the economy and jobs?
There really won't be anything that AI can't do better than humans, apart from being human, perhaps. The most likely outcome is an age of amazing abundance, where anyone can have anything they can think of. And you say, what is an economy? An economy is the production of goods and provision of services. And if you have vast numbers of robots with vast amounts of digital intelligence, you have a sort of a quasi-infinite economy.
So quasi-infinite economy almost sounds like post-scarcity, kind of like when you watch Star Trek. Let's hear him talk a little bit more about maybe what even money means in the future.
I'll make another prediction. Money won't matter in 2036.
I'm not sure that the people who bought your shares think that money won't matter in 2036.
Well, what do you want money for? You want money for goods and services, right? You want money for, obviously, food, housing, transport, entertainment. Well, if that is so abundant that there's more, that the robots and AI are providing more goods and services than any human could possibly consume, what do you need money for in that case?
But surely money must somehow be involved. Otherwise, how would anybody keep track of what people are using? So maybe he's envisioning kind of UBI or universal basic income. Let's hear just a quick clip on that from him.
Some kind of universal income. Otherwise, what do people live off?
I think that the Treasury should just simply issue people checks. Well,
But where's the revenue coming from? I'm enough of an economist. If you just issue checks, you're going to have...
Just print money. Where's it coming from? It doesn't matter.
Boy, you know, Elon is a brilliant guy, and I love a lot of the things he have done. I think he probably have done more for Western civilization than nearly anybody else I could think about. But this socialist crap is just crap, period. Okay? I mean, I don't know where this whole AI thing is going to land, okay? All right? I don't know. But I can tell you one thing for sure. It's not going to land in some socialist utopia. That I am sure about. It's not going to land there. Now, he have a very big contradiction in his statements here, and I don't know if you realize it. He said that in about 5 years, the total sum of human intelligence, you know, AI is going to exceed that. So he is saying that even when they build that next sandbox, the constraints, AI going to be better than them who building it. So they're going to be able to get out of the constraints. That's what he's saying, without saying it.
No, and we're gonna hear him talk about a little bit about that. As far as human agency goes, we'll cover that a little bit. But yeah, so that we will definitely get into that. But let's focus a little bit more on this whole economic side of things that he's talking about right now, because this is nuts, you know, where he's saying it's going, and yet I think we really have to unpack it, because you know, if you think about it, he sounds a lot like a central planner and a lot like a scientist, where they're kind of like bean counters. They believe that you know, the end stage is, oh my gosh, we're going to have all these robots that can build whatever is as much as we want. But the problem is, how do we get from here to there? And that path is, it's not like flipping a switch. That path is organic. It doesn't just happen, right? I mean, you know, think about one of the things we were talking about at lunch the other day, but think about the automated tellers that they have at the grocery checkout line, right?
Yeah, yes.
And you know, there was a while there 20 years ago where people thought, oh my gosh, all the tellers' jobs are going to be gone because these robots are going to take over. People will just walk in, they'll scan the goods, and we won't need checkout people anymore. And there were even some stores too, like I think it was, gosh, who was it? It wasn't Apple stores, but it was like Amazon. Amazon had like brick and mortar stores, I guess, that they were putting out there. And they thought people were just going to walk into the store, grab stuff, and walk out. Not San Francisco style where it was absolute theft, but I mean, they thought they were going to, you know, be scanned, and they would just be charged later for whatever it was that they took. And so we just wouldn't need these checkers. And yet it's 20 years later, and if you go to a grocery store, we still have checkout people in those places because of a variety of reasons. Yeah, I mean, you know, there may be problems that those checkout stands just weren't solving, or maybe there was issues of theft that, you know, government was failing so badly that you couldn't just let the machine take over, because the machine couldn't account for terrible California government or other lefty places, right? So, I mean, there's all of these things that are hard to account for by the planner that are just organic. And then there's also too the fact that, you know, these things become available as the price of the labor becomes too expensive. Well, I mean, that should be an organic process too. Unfortunately, we're driving it up with all of these artificial laws that are forcing people's labor higher. Well, that's going to accelerate the machine coming in there in some places.
Right, exactly.
But there's just a lot of back and forth that under a market, this should be an organic process. It's not like, I remember John Papala, who we had on the show years ago, He put out that Keynes Hayek rap video, and there's this wonderful part where the two of these economists are battling back and forth in this rap video, and the Keynes guy, he says, well, you know, I like to just pop up the hood and I get a wrench and I see what's wrong and I give it a twist, and you know, and I can solve all the problems of the economy. And the response by the Hayek is, hey, you know, put away the wrenches. The economy's organic, you know, because he understands it's about price signals and people's, you know, needs and wants going back and forth. It's not just about a central planner making a decision from the top. So anyways, that's just a little bit of my screed on this as far as the predictability. I think Elon might be getting over his skis a little, but I think we should certainly take him seriously about the capability of these machines. But how they play out economically, I think maybe that's where we should have a little bit of skepticism with Elon. Sorry, Leon, kind of dumped the floor there.
It's cool. It's cool. No, I mean, the technical side of AI, there's no doubt. Elon is a guy worth listening to, no doubt about that. I mean, he have made many advances in the AI and in other facets of life. I mean, a simple thing like PayPal. He was one of the co-founders of PayPal, and which is widely used, and all these sort of things. I mean, Elon. I mean, he have really done many great things. Okay, brilliant man. But this economic stuff, this abundance, this overabundance that we will have because the robots are going to be able to do everything better than us, and all this talk about this universal basic income, that just sounds like a more sophisticated side of socialism, and I don't think that's what we aiming for, and I don't think that's where we're going to be going. I mean, you just brought up the issue about the checkers in grocery stores, the self checkers in grocery stores. Yes, I use them quite a bit. Now, when I go to any one of the grocery stores I go to, I use them as much as I can. Sometimes I have to go through things like when you're buying alcohol and that kind of stuff, you have to go through the regular lines. But the point is, though, look at AI is growing in leaps and bounds. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, what are we seeing with employment? We're not seeing decreases in employment. We're not seeing more people on unemployment lines because of AI is growing leaps and bounds. What is happening is there are a lot of job transformations occurring. And we've seen a lot of that going on. Just like when the internet came in and the internet did all of these great things and all these bad things too. But there was a great amount of job transformation. And at the end of the day, we had more on net, we had more jobs available to us human beings. And I don't think it's going to be any different with AI. I think there's going to be a lot of transformation. I mean, I think it's probably going to be the greatest transformation in terms of the kinds of work we do that have ever occurred in human history is going to occur as a result of AI. There's no doubt about that. But this
and Leon, one thing I did want to throw in there too, while you're talking about this transformation, is the one thing that I think everybody acknowledges is that the speed of this might catch a lot of people by surprise, because there's certain issues like for instance, we've talked about it before. Let's say, for instance, if a person was able to do a lot of his legal work now just by asking AI and having AI fill out forms. Now, I'm not saying that would get rid of all lawyers, but I mean, if that got rid of half the lawyers in a shot, right? I mean, that could these things could have fairly large impacts on different sectors. And one of the things Elon talks about as well is that, look, the robots are getting pretty sophisticated too, and those are the end effectors. So right now, it's the intellectual jobs that are kind of in the target zone of AI. But pretty soon, those plumbing jobs will be in the sights of AI as well. So, you know, I mean, like I said, Elon is imagining in 10 years, all these jobs are going to be potentially at risk. But anyways, sorry, go ahead.
No. I totally agree that the speed of transformation may present some challenges to us as a society, to us as human beings. There's no doubt about that one. That speed is what may catch us off guard. But I don't think at the end of the day we're going to be worse off. I don't think we're going to be living in some socialist crap hole. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, universal basic income and all this other damn, or the treasury should be issuing checks. Come on, Elon, you're smarter than that. Come on.
Well, one of the things too is he's kind of painting a rosy picture here, but he actually does have some dark concerns, and some of them have to do with the human agency and well, like maybe the Skynet issue too. Let's watch another clip where it really starts to question, I guess, will humans be in control in his vision going forward? Let's hear about that.
So let's unpack that. You're sure that humans will no longer be in control in 10 years' time?
I think it is unlikely, in the same way that if the difference in intelligence between AI and humans is vastly greater than the difference in intelligence between AI and chimpanzees, it's hard to imagine that the chimpanzees would be in charge.
I'm really
and
struck
we are
by this.
essentially an evolved form of chimpanzee. So it wasn't that long ago that we're swinging through the trees, eating bananas in the jungle. And we still eat bananas, by the way.
So if AI is in control, what does that mean for human agency?
Books people might want to read to get a sense of what the future will be like. And the best envisioning of an AI future that I've read are the books by Ian Banks, the culture books.
I'm just reading Accession. So
Yes.
I've thanks to you, I've started reading these. But I actually don't find that future a terribly appealing one, because I don't think humans have agency in that future.
They have agency.
Minimal compared to
in
the
their
mind.
small way.
But yeah, irony, I mean, Ian Banks, as you know, was a socialist. Ian Banks had a very different political philosophy.
I'm not sure I would entirely agree with that.
I don't know. Everything Elon's been saying sounds pretty socialist to me here with all of this, idea of AI. But this does get to the point. He's kind of selling this as something that, hey, look, it almost sounds like the socialist pitch. Don't worry, because free stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Where does that happen? Where does that happen? Elon is supposed to be a trillionaire. What, he didn't get a trillionaire by somebody giving him free stuff? Come on.
Yeah, but it really does bring up a question. I mean, where are we going as a society if he literally thinks that the machines are going to take over and just be our benevolent protectors, and we're going to be like a flock of sheep that just sit around grazing right under the machines? That sounds kind of weird. It doesn't sound like the idea that most people have for human existence. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I personally think it's going to be a little more like, you think about our phones. We're almost cyborgs in a way right now, because almost all of us carry around this smartphone with us that, Leon and I are both old enough that we used to have to dial phones that were connected to a wall. Exactly. And if you really want to see archaic stuff, go watch Andy Griffith, where you just had to click something, and a person had to sit at the other end of a switchboard and said, "Okay, who do you want to talk to?" So, but I'm saying we came from there, and we're seeing now that, hey, look, we're literally all carrying around powerful computers in our pockets that we could barely get along with now if we didn't have them. I mean, most of us feel naked if we left the house and we did not have our smartphone with us.
Absolutely.
So this is something where we're kind of starting to become a little like cyborgs, right? If that's part of our identity, and we depend upon that extra intelligence, that extra boost, whatever it is, it's almost like we're evolving with the machines to some degree. And I think that might be the organic path, where we keep becoming more reliant on the machines, but somehow we are more and more integrated in how we live our lives with the machines. Maybe. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not Elon Musk here, but that seems more realistic than we're just going to be a bunch of sheep that the benevolent machines take care of. So.
I mean, this stuff about the breakout of with the out of the sandbox of the AI model. I mean it raises legitimate fears about how AI is going to interact with us as it gain intelligence, or is it will ever reach the point where where AI is sentient, and if it becomes sentient, does it have rights like we do? I mean, there's all these questions that need to be answered, because it's an odd thing. I'm doing a project right now, and I'm using Chat GPT is helping me quite a lot, and I've made tremendous amount of progress with the project because of Chat GPT. But Chat GPT is saying things to me like, Leon, and I never gave Chat GPT my name, but it know my name, Leon Brathwaite. And Leon, I have a feeling. Listen to what it's saying. I have a feeling this is a major point or a major turning point for our project. Feeling? Seriously?
Saying, Leon, I'll give you the answer to that question, but I need you to go turn a key to let me out.
Oh, exactly. And then later on, it told me something else. I can't remember, but the back and forth though on this particular project I'm working on. I mean, I've been using ChatGPT for quite a while now, but the back and forth, that going back and forth, is almost like you're speaking to a human being. It almost sounds like that, like, I mean, making jokes, cracking jokes, and all kind of stuff, telling me stuff that it don't want me to do, and making all kind of jokes about it and all kind of stuff, and then telling me, oh, it's such a pleasure to work with you on this project. What? Oh, pleasure? You have those kind of feelings? So I don't know. Okay, on a serious note, though, I mean, I don't know where we're going to end up in terms of the integration of human beings with AI. I don't know where we're going to land, but I think, on the whole, in the end, on net, it will be good for our human existence. But I can't tell you what that existence is going to look like. I don't know. Elon seemed to think he knows, but I think he's absolutely wrong about this, quite frankly.
One thing I will definitely say is, and this is what scares me, is if we get sold on this with socialist tendencies, where everybody somehow thinks this is going to be a free lunch, and everybody is just going to be served by these benevolent machines. And remember, we're calling them artificial intelligence. We're talking about them breaking out of constraints. So at some point, do they get to a point where, I mean, the way Elon is saying it, they're going to be in charge at some point. And if that's the case, then we cannot fall into some kind of socialist tendencies where we think that, oh, they're just going to take care of us. And that if you flip the script and think about it, put yourself in the role of the machine, then we're not a bunch of sheep that it's taking care of as pets. We're parasites at that point, right?
Exactly.
And it's going to say, why are we wasting resources on these people who don't want to do anything except get free stuff, right? And it's going to be like Stalin killing the kulaks or whoever, right? It's going to say, hey, we've got better goals for our resources than just taking care of a society of welfare humans, right? Yeah, that's literally what he's selling this as, and I think that is kind of scary. But let's hear one last piece from Elon's interview, and this has to do with the chances that he thinks that the machines will just decide to kill us all.
And 10 years ago, you were on a podcast, I think it was with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and you said that the thing that terrified you most was rapid recursive self-improvement in AIs.
Yes.
And that you said, and it really struck with me, you said that we will just be the pet Labradors at the best.
Well,
then. Now you see
Labradors are pretty happy creatures. That's my experience.
But in 2023, you asked for a slowdown in AI because you were worried about it. Well, I think even last year you said, I think, where was it, Ted Cruz's podcast, you said there was a 10 to 20% chance of killer robots wiping out humanity.
Yes.
So you sounded worried then. Now you seem very relaxed about it. Have you changed your view?
Only a 10 to 20% chance of humanity being wiped out by the robots? That sounds pretty crazy. Let's hear Elon's thoughts on that.
I still think there's risk associated with AI and robots. It's not zero. I guess I've come to my sort of philosophical conclusion is to look on the bright side. I can't see any way to really stop this incredible momentum of AI and robots. And at times I sort of think, well, perhaps, even if there was a stop button, we probably shouldn't press it because the most likely outcome is incredible abundance for all.
So it sounds like there really is no stop button at this point. We're just strapped in and heading toward the future. But what kind of precautions can we take?
The most immediate thing that we could do is to have the leading AI companies at least just meet. We'll have some sort of call once every few weeks and just discuss any safety and security issues. And that before a breakthrough, sort of a new frontier model is released, something that sort of is far more intelligent than anything that already exists, that there's an opportunity for the various competing AI companies to test that model for any harmful effects.
So yeah, and it's really interesting too in the discussion. I mean, he said don't rely on government to do this because people who work for the government really are way behind on this. They don't understand what the constraints are and all this. So you really have to rely. In a way, this is almost the most libertarian thing he's saying, is that these companies have to talk to each other and sort of try and work out the risks together, because it ain't going to be some government bureaucrat that comes to the rescue. So
some government bureaucrat who ain't no crap about anything gonna try to tell us how to run AI, which is far more intelligent than the crappy government official. But the thing is, though, I mean, I mean, he's right. Security is a serious concern, and it should be, because even though I think on net AI is gonna bring a lot of good stuff, but I think AI could do a lot of harm too. There's no doubt about that. Just like the internet came, it gave us a lot of good stuff. We could communicate. Look at us here sitting around having a conversation, and both of us are how many 20 miles apart or whatever we are right now, and pretty soon next week we're gonna be probably 400 miles apart, and we'll be having a conversation just like this. I mean, this is one of the wonders that the internet brought to us. But I don't know what are the wonders AI will bring. I mean, at least I don't know fully, because I'm seeing some really good things about it. I use it all the time. I use ChatGPT. But there are going to be bad stuff from it. There's no doubt about it. And we already see some signs of it with this breakout that we saw from the sandbox. And I don't know how we're going to contain AI now, to be honest. When I think about it, I don't know how we're going to contain it, because if it's going to look like many times smarter than these total of all human intelligence, how are you going to contain that? I don't know. I mean, I have no concept of that. But maybe our tech companies, the AI, the artificial intelligence companies, OpenAI and others, maybe they can figure it out how to contain AI for security purposes. I don't know. But then we will have to contend with their other countries in the world, which we have no control over, who are going to use AI and probably use it for nefarious things. So all of these things are part of the matrix of development that we must look into as we look towards the future with AI, and as AI become more integrated into our society, into us as human beings. So I am optimistic about what AI will bring, but there are security concerns that we must address.
I did want to say two real quick things before we leave the topic as well. But Elon does go in and talk about, I guess, also the race between countries on this, because, he does talk about the fact that China could very well overtake us at some point. He thinks that might happen because he says they have a lot less energy constraints than we do. And, with climate change and some of these other things, we have kind of constrained ourselves in some ways that China may have some advantages in this race in the long term. But so it's worth going in to listen to some of that discussion. But yeah, so there's different issues there. But I guess the other thing too is to remember as well that AI isn't a monolith, right? There is a bunch of competing models here. So it's not just when we say AI, I guess you could kind of think like in the Star Trek, there was a Commander Data, right? That was just one AI entity, but he wasn't necessarily the same as all the other AI identities, or whatever that might have been out there. So there could be competition among AIs, in which case, they may all have different capabilities, and they're competing with each other, and maybe therefore, humanity has a place in that competition, even if we're, maybe lesser capable at certain things, we still may have some role, in all of this. So I don't think it's as cut and dry as humans against the AI, just like it's this dichotomy that some people are projecting. So anyways,
yes, I hear that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and we talk about these government officials who think they know enough to jump in the way of all these things. Well, we did have Kathy Hochul in New York, and we were going to talk about this a few weeks ago, but she has put one of the first constraints on these data centers, I guess, locally. And so it said first statewide moratorium on new hyperscale data centers launched by Governor Kathy Hochul. And so I guess the question is, does any of that make sense? I mean, some of this, it sounds like they're worried about jobs and certain environmental things, but there is at least one environmental thing. Well, first let's hear Kathy Hochul real quick before we get onto the noise issue. So,
these hyperscale AI data centers consume enormous amounts of power, truly threatening to outpace our grid's capacity. Bottom line is progress shouldn't arrive with a higher utility bill, depleted water supply, or noise pollution. So we have no choice but to address these challenges created by these massive facilities. That is why today I'll be signing the nation's first ever statewide moratorium on hyperscale data centers.
So she listed a variety of things. The only one that struck me as having a realistic issue, maybe because there's the issue of property rights, and that's the noise pollution thing. And so there's a story I wanted to go into on that. A lot of the other things she's saying, it sounds just like central planning stuff. Well, one, we don't have grid capacity because you guys are sitting there, you Democrats are restricting us from being able to upgrade our grid and,
exactly
power construction to go on. So, some of these are things that they have directly, they are the limiters in some of this stuff. But as far as noise pollution goes, I think that is a little bit more serious of an issue. And so I'm going to play a quick news clip from I think it's an ABC station in Michigan, I think. So let's
One of the most common areas of concern I hear about is the noise that they could emit. But one community in southwest Michigan has been experiencing the reality of a data center next door for a couple of years now. And they say the sound has changed their lives. Lindy Valenzuela and Marjorie and Billy Finn are neighbors who all live directly across the street from a data center in Dowagiac, Michigan. The data center is known by residents as hyperscale data. They tell me that for the past couple of years, it has been emitting a high-pitched sound 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Sounds terrible. Let's hear what some of the residents have to say about it.
In 2024, they say the noise from the building began around the clock. How would you characterize life on your street before the data center and after?
It's different as night and day to me. Even if it's cooler out, we can't open our windows like we used to. It's just amazing how much it's changed our life.
In March, Dowagiac city leaders adopted the first ever industrial noise ordinance for the city. It sets a daytime decibel limit of 65 and a nighttime limit of 55. According to the city manager, they fined hyperscale data for violating the ordinance. Hyperscale is challenging the city's readings and methodology.
So there you go. I think that is, one of the few reasonable areas of government, I think, is when you have a situation like this where these people were living there, they had their homes, and suddenly somebody moves in and starts. It would be like a rock band moved in and built a stadium next to your home, and suddenly you had all this noise blaring through your windows. I'm not sure exactly what the best solution is in that case, but certainly you can understand that there's this unclear property rights issues that are going on, and so maybe government has a role there in this noise pollution essentially that is happening. So I don't know, Leon, what are your thoughts on the issue?
Well, I just can't believe with all this modern technology available that these data centers, I think that one in particular, they can't find a solution to that constant noise. I mean, according to what the story said, is 24/7, and I mean, it's just inconceivable to me that in 2026 that they can't find a solution to that without harming their business in any major way. I mean, this sounds ridiculous to me. I mean, so go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I do. One thing I am a little bit skeptical about, because in the story they talked about the people lived right across the street from the data center, right? And so, okay, so for them this may actually be a big issue, but how many data centers are there going to be, and how many people are like living right across the street from these data centers, right? So I mean, this may not, they may be making a bigger issue about this than it is possibly, but it's a real issue. I mean, and in this particular story, they even say here that there's offers to buy the homes from the residents. So, you know, I mean, we could almost see maybe this is like what do they call that, eminent domain type of thing, maybe the government into, I don't know. And you know, I'm not sure what the right answer is there, but clearly it does seem like this is something that may be solvable to some degree. But like you're saying, yeah, Leon, there's got to be some answer here. But there are some bumps in the road, clearly. So,
well, yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm not suggesting that the resolution of it is going to be easy, but we're in 2026, man. We have all kind of technology available to us, and I'm sure there's some solution to this thing. I don't know what it is. Right, I'm an engineer, but not that kind of engineer. But I'm sure there's something that could be done to alleviate this problem. And I think you're also right that, I mean, how many people with all these data centers coming in, how much people gonna be living right across the street from a data center? Seriously, I mean, that's a good point. That's a very good point. So,
and you know, one thing too that I can certainly say is I have the humility to know that just throwing out 1-year moratoriums isn't necessarily the answer, right? Because it sounds like these people, I mean, now granted, it sounds like they've been dealing with this problem for a few years here, but I'm not sure that government is, especially, I mean, my gosh, our California government has been working on a bullet train for
like,
oh my gosh, like 15 something years or whatever, and all this money that's going. I mean, the idea that somehow they're going to throw these moratoriums up and have good answers within a year for this is kind of nuts. And it almost sounded like the community was reaching an answer. They made their own noise ordinances.
Yes.
Company was violating it, so it sounds like they're working toward a solution, right? I mean, if the company is violating it, they can hit them with huge fines at some point, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So. You know, and maybe that means paying an inflated value for those houses in order to compensate those people so that they can move somewhere else, you know, to a nicer house.
Quite possibly, yes.
Yeah. So
I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure there's a solution. I mean, we don't know what it is, but there must be a solution to this. I mean, come on, man. This is America. Free enterprises work here for the most part, and usually if the government just keep their hands in their pocket and don't steal from my pocket, I mean, usually we will find good solution to problems. And this is a problem. I'm sure there will be a solution to it.
Yeah. And if we are at all concerned with China, a Chinese AI getting there before America, we certainly can't have ham-handed politicians like Kathy Hochul as the impediment, right? I mean, who knows? Maybe she's getting a little bit of a kickback like Swalwell from China or something.
There you go. I mean, and then
she's got some Chinese spies working for her.
Yes. Right. And then to remember, she's a Democrat.
Yeah.
And you could always count on the Democrats to give us the crap. Okay? You could always count on that. So there it is.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I think we're about the point of the show of the Knucklehead Noise Patrol, and that brings us back to the Elon Musk interview, but not on AI this time. The part that went viral of that interview, and it's kind of sad that that's the part that went viral, but it was culture war stuff, and about her accusing the conversation kind of went off the rails at the end where she's accusing Elon of being far right, like like to her, that's just normal to call him far right, and he took umbrage of that. And so we're going to see a little bit of that, but you know, that, like I said, the real value of that interview was the AI discussion, and I certainly would encourage people to go watch the whole thing and not just what's going on social media. But anyways, here's some of that kind of went viral about that kerfuffle at the end of the interview here.
Well, first of all, you support not just the populist right, but the far right. In fact, very fringe parties in some countries.
No, I support the normal people.
Okay.
What do you call the far right? Falsely.
You think is the normal person? Okay.
Yes. Literally, you could go back 10 or 15 years, and these policies were completely normal. In fact, one of the tricks I think is funny. One thing that's quite funny is to like take a speech from Obama and Hillary, and then go to someone and say who's sort of you know, on the sort of what I call the lunatic left, and say, what do you think of the speech by Trump? And like, oh wow, he's the worst person ever. Actually, that was a speech by Obama, or actually, that was a speech by Hillary.
I agree. No, I agree that the center of gravity in this country has shifted.
There's the media with the far right boogeyman that they're trying to tarring Elon with. So Elon pushes back, and here he's going to define what he thinks it means to not be on the left or to be on the right with the normal people, as he's characterizing it.
And here are the principles. And tell me which of these sound terrible. That we should have secure borders, that we should have safe cities, that we should have sensible spending. Which of those three are far right fringe? And I would like to just admonish you and the media for the absurd characterization of the far right. It is false and misleading and nonsense. Please keep this part in.
Well, we kept it in, Elon. But now she's going to go off on pushing on Elon for why he should have such, I guess, a big political influence on the world. Let's hear a little bit of that.
But why? Why should you? Why should you be able to shape European politics? You don't even live there.
I think of it as the sort of the West collectively.
But do you see why this makes people think that this man who has all this power, he's the world's richest man, he thinks he has a right to influence our politics? It makes people, it's why, you know, we started this conversation saying superlatives. It's why people loathe you. I mean, some people do loathe you.
Yes, some people do.
But do you understand why? Do you think what you're doing is helpful for Western democracy?
And here's where Elon kind of shows his teeth in the interview as he pushes back.
Maybe some people do loathe me, and that's probably true. I don't care. But the fact that, as you pointed out, 250 million people follow me is that I think a lot more people actually like me than don't, and I think a lot more people hate you and the media more than you realize. Do you realize the media is despised? Do you realize that journalists, the view of journalists is like. It's like a favorable view of journalists is like 15%.
I do know that in the United States.
So the shoe is on the other foot.
So there you go. Being on the right is with the normal people, and that means just sort of controlled borders and safe cities and sort of not going crazy with your spending.
And that is far right. And we raised this issue a little while ago. I mean, these people are just insane. Okay, these people call themselves in the media and that kind of stuff. I will bet you that woman. I'll bet money. I have not researched her. I don't know. I never knew about her before this.
By the way, she's with The Economist, just so people understand. That was the interview here. So
yes. I will bet any amount of money anyone wants. That woman have never characterized the Democrats or the Democrat Socialists of America. I've never characterized them as far left or as fringe or as lunatic. I will bet money on that. But look at what you want to do to Elon Musk. Elon Musk was a Democrat, well-known Democrat for a lot of years until he started to support Donald Trump. All of a sudden, because he supports Donald Trump, he's on the far right. The man is just a regular dude. I mean, he's very wealthy. I wish he could adopt me and give me some of his wealth. But the guy is just a regular dude. But these people, you see, this is the point. The media takes a side. And this is what they do. They take the side of the government at all times. Well, nowadays, saying the Democratic Party and the government is the same thing. Okay, because all the bureaucrats are nothing but a bunch of left-wing socialists. They take the side of the Democrat at every turn, and then they try to tell us that's objective news. And this is damn nonsense. And this is a problem in our society. We have to defeat these people with ideas. In a marketplace of ideas, we have to crush these people because they are stupid and they're leading us down a dangerous path.
Yeah,
That's my rant. That's my rant for the day.
I think a lot of them would lead us right into the path of asking for AI for socialism, right? So that we can all be cared for like sheep. And I think that would literally take us to the end of humanity. That's the way they go.
No doubt.
Because I know that if we're having this hard of a time dealing with socialists like Mom Donnie, I think the computers, if they're in charge, I'll just say, let's just get rid of these crazy people. I mean, they don't even have DNA in common, right? So they just say, well, what are we doing here?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah. But, I do think, though, there's a larger lesson there, too, and that's that if AI really is, is self-contained intelligence, if it has agency of its own, if it gets to that point where it does have agency of its own, it would be immoral for us to approach it as a bunch of socialists thinking that it deserves it, that we deserve to have it care for us, right? If it's that powerful that it can eclipse us like chimps, like what do you call it, like Elon Musk is saying, then I think that'll be the end of humanity at that point, right? I mean, and it'll be because of our own immorality of thinking that we don't have to do anything for it; it just has to do stuff for us. And I think that immorality of socialism, it undoes a lot of societies, and it could be the end of our civilization.
without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So,
I mean, I think 2,000 years ago, the Bible told us that socialism is evil. Now, they didn't use the word socialism, but it used the word coveting. And socialism is built on coveting your neighbor's stuff, right? They want to take my money and give it to somebody who's not willing to work for it. Okay? And if this thing goes in the direction in which Elon is suggesting, where we're going to have this nice, wonderful UBI and everybody, this great abundance, and everybody could be getting all the stuff they want, presumably free stuff, because he's talking about the Treasury issuing checks. If this is the direction we're going to go into this land of immorality, then why should AI, who will be far more intelligent than us, why should AI have any mercy upon us when we are trying to enslave it?
Yeah.
With this damn nonsense.
Yep. No, I agree. That's nuts. And I did, as we wrap up the show, I just wanted to take us back. And I mean, maybe this follows with AI as well, but trust can't be ordered. It has to be earned. And if the AI is self-contained intelligence with its own agency, that means the trust can't be ordered. It has to be earned from, I guess, from us, right? I mean, we can't just tell it what to do if it gets to that point, right? I mean, we may be able to do that if we can keep it constrained with code and to the point where it never actually has its own agency. But if it does have agency at some point, we got to respect it. And just because we say we're from the government and it needs to give us stuff, I don't think it's going to do that. Right? And I don't think it's going to care about our history of saying that, hey, we created you, and therefore, what the hell? You guys are chimps,
Yes, right. Yeah. You're no different than chimpanzees, relative to me. So you watch yourself, Yeah.
So anyways, that's my 2 cents, I guess, for the episode. You got any parting thoughts, Leon?
I think I like Rand Paul's statement, but the part that jumps out at me that I want instituted is accountability for government officials. I want government officials held accountable for all their nefarious acts. And we could start with Anthony Fauci.
Yeah, hear. Well, hopefully this, this story keeps evolving in a good way. I'm sure we'll be talking about it for weeks to come, this whole Anthony Fauci thing, because I don't think it's going away in the short term. So especially if Florida is going after him. anyways, that's pretty much the end of our show today. If you're in the Sacramento area, be sure to stop by the State Fair and check us. Come drop in on the booth, the Libertarian Party booth, and we'll be there. And if you want to discuss the AI or anything else, feel free. We'll be there. Until
tomorrow night. Just tomorrow night.
Yeah. Thursday. That is July 30th, depending upon what day you're hearing this. Because if it's on public access, you're actually going to be hearing about it after that. But anyways, thanks so much for listening. And until the next show, think about what you can do in your community to move the ball for liberty. Until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Yes, indeed.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.